August 25th, 2017. It's late evening, and millions of people along the Texas coast are bracing for impact.
We got sand in sandbags because everywhere was out with sandbags. We have a total of 40.
The essentials you need to get by, vanishing from store shelves.
And the people were actually fighting over a loaf of bread. And they actually were yelling and screaming in the middle of the floor over this 2 loaves of bread.
At first, it was just a disorganized cluster of thunderstorms, a remnant low that had barely survived its trek across the Caribbean. Meteorologists had been watching a disturbance in the Gulf of Mexico for days. While not entirely unusual for late August, the forecast model started picking up on something deeply concerning. A massive pocket of incredibly warm water was situated right in the Bay of Campeche. This water is basically high-octane fuel for tropical systems, and it's known for its potential to spawn explosive hurricane development. It became clear that something violent was brewing down south. The National Hurricane Center issued a hurricane warning for the Texas coast. A serious move considering just a day prior, Harvey was merely a tropical depression. Though it hinted at a major storm, the actual ceiling of its potential remained uncertain.
Perhaps it's a tropical storm, perhaps it's something much stronger as per the European model. We can't tell you exactly what, but be prepared for the threat of heavy rains, maybe some wind, and maybe a significant storm surge. Right now,
unfortunately, the people in the region would soon learn just how catastrophic this storm was going to be. As the situation developed, the NHC ramped up the warning, forecasting a major hurricane landfall.
And we're seeing rapid intensification right now, so I'm concerned we're going to see a hurricane within the next advisory, maybe at 2 p.m., at 5 p.m. A big deal, a big concern. People need to heed the warnings.
With the increasing likelihood of a devastating impact, thousands of people began to prepare, boarding up windows and evacuating low-lying areas. Meteorologists and storm chasers took to social media, sounding the alarm. This wasn't just another Gulf storm. This one had the potential for big problems. The coastal town of Rockport begins its Friday with a sense of dread.
Urgent sound of nails into boards heard across the coastal bend.
Businesses are boarded up. Streets are emptying out. Everything is preparing for the worst on the ground. But out over the Gulf, something menacing is rapidly maturing.
This is a powerful hurricane that will strike the United States as a major hurricane, and specifically taking a strike and a direct aim on the coastline of Texas.
The environment was perfect. A tool meteorologists use called satellite imagery indicated the storm was getting stronger and organizing quicker, while a lack of wind shear allowed the hurricane to vent its exhaust perfectly. By around 5 p.m. local time, Harvey's eye wall was visible on radar. The unique aspect of this storm is that although it struggled for a week, it had now found the absolute perfect conditions to explode. All it needed to do was maintain momentum to the northwest, where it would hit the Texas coastline. When a storm undergoes this kind of rapid intensification, extreme weather anomalies occur. Catastrophic wind gusts, massive storm surges, and of course, torrential, blinding rain.
Good afternoon, Roberto. We've been getting pounded with tropical storm force winds for more than 2 hours now. The rain has certainly picked up. Storm surge is already up along the coast here. And within the past hour, the governor made one final plea for people here to get out.
A flash flood watch was issued, covering an enormous stretch of land across southeast Texas. Judging by how fast the storm was strengthening, people were getting extremely anxious about what landfall would actually look like. The storm was closing in, and the window for evacuation was rapidly slamming shut. That was until the outer bands began lashing the coast. The intriguing system soon became a monster, visibly expanding and producing towering thunderstorms within its eye wall. Based on radar data and Hurricane Hunter aircraft, the National Hurricane Center upgraded Harvey to a Category 4 hurricane. This massive storm stretched across the western Gulf, but the worst of the wind hadn't actually reached the shore yet. Even still, the radar showed a distinct, clear eye, the hallmark of an incredibly powerful cyclone. At this point, it was literally a matter of hours before the eye wall would make landfall. At 10 p.m., the northern edge of the eye wall strikes San Jose Island. This was unmistakably the start of a catastrophe. The devastating wind started ripping through the barrier islands, tearing up natural vegetation and unroofing structures. Soon, it crossed the bay and made a direct hit on the mainland. As if driven by some sort of supernatural force, the grinding, roaring eye wall slammed into Rockport with an alarming violence. Storm chasers were now there, capturing audio of the howling wind and footage of buildings being shredded in the darkness. We know the sustained winds were over 130 miles per hour at this point, with even higher gusts. Experts consider this a worst-case scenario for the small coastal communities. The combination of extreme wind and a devastating storm surge prompted desperate calls to emergency services, but no one could respond. The weather was simply too violent. Right now, the destruction was almost completely invisible to the naked eye, as torrential rain mixed with a pitch-black sky obstructed it from any view. By midnight, the eye passed directly over Rockport. For a brief, eerie moment, the winds calmed. The pressure bottomed out, but the backside of the eye wall was coming. The projected path of the hurricane had it moving inland and dissipating over the next few days. However, high up in the atmosphere, the steering currents completely collapsed. The storm was only just beginning its reign of terror. It pushed slightly inland, and then it just stopped. The eye wall wiped out entire marinas, stacking boats on top of each other like toys. Trees in this area became so damaged that they were stripped bare of their leaves and branches. Images afterwards showed that well-built brick buildings had their top floors sheared completely off. And unfortunately, the first several indicators of a historic disaster were seen here, with the coastal towns rendered unrecognizable. Multiple people were trapped in collapsed structures, and the storm was just getting started. From the coast, the massive rain bands stretched far to the north and east, pulling a limitless supply of moisture directly from the Gulf. The storm was moving so slowly at this point that the same heavy rain bands were training over the exact same areas, hour after hour. The edge of the Houston metropolitan area was getting closer and closer to the heaviest rain, and unfortunately, the deluge seemed to only intensify as the first bands locked into place over the city. It is Saturday, August 26th. The wind along the coast has finally died down, but the nightmare is just beginning. Hurricane Harvey is downgraded to a tropical storm, but it hasn't left. It is boxed in by high pressure systems. It is stalled completely. The radar shows a terrifying spiral of deep red and purple echoes, stretching straight from the warm waters of the Gulf of Mexico right into the heart of the Houston metropolitan area. This is what meteorologists call the training effect. It is like a train on a track. One massive thunderstorm forms, dumps torrential rain, and is immediately followed by another and another over the exact same spot. By Saturday night, the sky simply breaks open. Rain is falling at blinding rates, 4 to 5 inches every single hour. The flat topography of Houston, a megacity practically built on a swamp, turns against its millions of residents. The ground is already saturated, the drainage systems are overwhelmed, the water has nowhere to go. The city's massive flood control systems, the Addicks and Barker reservoirs, are filling at an unprecedented, terrifying rate. Water begins to approach the absolute limits of the spillways. Buffalo Bayou transforms from a calm, winding river into a raging, violent torrent. It swallows the highways. Interstate 10, Interstate 45, they are completely gone, replaced by dark, churning lakes. Sunday, August 27th. The true, terrifying scale of the catastrophe sets in. The The 911 emergency system completely collapses. It is crushed under the weight of tens of thousands of desperate, simultaneous calls. People are waking up in the pitch black to freezing, polluted water creeping over their mattresses. With the floodwaters rising incredibly fast, families are forced to make terrifying decisions. They climb into their attics to escape the deadly currents filling their living rooms.
It's not going good for us. Across the street, the building is caving in and it's water everywhere. We have nowhere to go.
Emergency officials issue a desperate plea across social media. If you shelter in your attic from flooding, take an axe or chainsaw to cut roof. Without an axe, the attic becomes a trap. As the water continues to rise, thousands of people are completely surrounded, trapped in the dark, listening to the relentless rain pound against the shingles above their heads. But as the official infrastructure reaches its absolute breaking point, the people step up. The Cajun Navy arrives, a massive, decentralized fleet of civilian volunteers from Louisiana and across Texas. Ordinary people hauling flat-bottom boats, kayaks, and jet skis behind their lifted trucks. They launch their boats straight off the highway overpasses. They navigate flooded suburban streets, dodging submerged cars, traffic lights, and mailboxes.
It is just one rescue after another. Over 100 people rescued just today and over 40 to 50 animals as well. Now,
for days, the only sounds in the flooded neighborhoods are the hum of outboard motors and the calls of rescuers. They pull desperate families, the elderly, and terrified pets from second-story windows and shattered rooftops. Finally, on Wednesday, August 30th, the steering currents shift. Harvey slowly begins to move northeast, toward Louisiana. The rain stops, the clouds break, but the damage is permanently etched into the landscape. The final numbers are staggering, almost incomprehensible. It is the highest rainfall total ever recorded from a single storm in North American history. Over 300,000 structures are flooded. The total destruction tops $125 billion, tying it with Hurricane Katrina as the costliest natural disaster in American history. Hurricane Harvey fundamentally changed how meteorologists view stalled tropical cyclones. It proved that a hurricane's category does not dictate its true devastating power. The wind tore the coast apart, but it was the endless, relentless water that brought the fourth largest city in America to its knees. Every storm eventually ends, but the way we hold each other, that remains. Take care of one another.